Right. So in the day 4 of the training, what we'll be discussing is about object identification. Okay. Suppose I make a class known as say gmail.java. Very simple program. Fine. And out here I write WebDriver driver equals to new Firefox driver. Look, yesterday I talked about it, right? WebDriver is an interface and Firefox driver is actually the class which is implementing the interface. Okay. Then you write driver dot get, go to the website http say gmail.com. Fine. So you reach gmail.com, but after reaching gmail.com, how do you identify the objects on that page? There is a username field, there is a password field, there is a link, there are texts and all. There are a lot of stuff over there, right? So how do you identify objects on a web page? Okay. Now to understand how Selenium works and how it identifies objects, what do you mean by an object first of all? Okay, what do you mean by an object? Technically, in automation, right, everything on a web page is known as an object. Okay, like oh, hold on. Yeah, suppose this is a web page. Okay, on this web page, this text box is an object. Okay, this link is an object. This drop down box is an object. So everything on a web page is categorized as an object. Okay, so how do you manage the objects? Look, you what you do, Selenium, it works on the page source. Okay, you can get the page source of a page by simply right clicking and viewing the page source. Okay, if I go to the Gmail web page, oh, it's logged in. Just 1 minute. Yeah, if you go to, just let me log out Google. Why is this coming up? Just 1 minute, guys. Yeah. So if I go to the Gmail web page, that is the Gmail home page. Okay. Now suppose I have to write something in. Okay, these guys they have this kind of login page to these days. Okay, so just 1 minute. I'll click on add an account. Yeah. So this is the username and password field of one account, all of Google. Right. Now, how do I identify the username and password on this page? Okay, how do I click on this button? The answer to that lies in the page source. Look, every website has a page source. Every web page has a page source. If you look at this page source carefully, this is nothing but actually combination of tags and attributes. Okay, you don't really need to worry, right? This is all HTML code. It's a combination of tags and attributes. Whatever is in this reddish maroon color, it's known as a tag. Label is a tag, input is a tag. Okay, whatever starts with the conical bracket, the first word is known as a tag. And all the other attributes like name, type, value are the attributes. Name, type and value are the attributes for the tag input. Okay, if you scroll down over here, Then there's an attribute called a over here. It's got an attribute like id and href. Okay, so with the combination of tag names and the attributes, we identify objects. Each and every object on the page has a specific tag name. Okay, and out of the attributes, uh, there are some mandatory attributes and some optional attributes for the tags. Okay, so I'll discuss about all of them right now. Okay, let me do one thing. I'll make a new Excel file, and in this Excel file, yeah, I'll make columns, tag name or element or object, whatever it is. Okay, tag name, mandatory attribute, optional attributes. You'll come to know, just be with me. Okay, now what kind of objects there are on the web page? Like on the web page, you can find something like say input field or a text field, whatever it is. Then you have got buttons. Then you have got a radio button, right? Then you have got a checkbox. Okay, links are also there. All right, on certain web pages, images are also present, right? What else? Text field, button, radio button, checkbox, links, images. There are some components which are not visible to the human eye. For example, web table. Okay, this web table is not visible to the human eye. We'll talk about that later on. Frames, these are also not visible to the human eye. Okay, then there is something known as drop lists. Okay, this is a drop down or a drop list, right? This is also a component on the web page. Then there is something known as normal text. Okay, so these are the various components on a web page, right? Now each component has a particular tag name. With that particular tag name, you identify the component, right? For example, if you look at the website, let's go to the website, say quicker.com. Okay, on this site, if you go to the sign in page, quicker.com/sign in, right? So you have this text field. Okay, now you can go to the page source and identify where the text field is, right? Or you can investigate the web page. Okay, now in Firefox, if you want to investigate the web page, you can install an add-on known as Firebug. It is very helpful. Okay, all you need to do is that you need to go to Google, and I'll tell you what Firebug does. If you don't know, you just need to write a Firebug download. So you'll get this addons.mozilla.org. You'll get this add-on. Make sure that you open this in Firefox. Okay, click on add to Firefox and it will get added to the Firefox. You just have to restart your Firefox after that. Fine. Now once you restart, you get an icon in Firefox over here. This is the icon. Okay, or you get the option tools web developer Firebug. Okay, when you click on this icon, you have a window opened up at the bottom. Okay, now this window it tells you about the web page, right? It is something similar to object spy in QTP, but exactly not. It's not the same. Fine. Now, if you look at this window at the bottom, you will have this arrow over here. Okay, this is the arrow. You click the arrow and you move your mouse over the web page. Okay, wherever you move your mouse, that object will be highlighted, and its corresponding code will also get highlighted. All right, fine. Okay, similarly in Chrome as well. If you open up Chrome, in Chrome, the Chrome inspector is inbuilt. Like this is my Chrome. Right, on Chrome, if I visit this page, there is no firebug as such in Chrome, but in Chrome you can right click on any element and you will see the option inspect element. When you click on inspect element, you have this thing opened up. Okay, the element gets highlighted. Okay, right, this window is known as Chrome inspector. Right, this can also be activated by clicking on F12. When a Chrome is open, if you hit F12, then the Chrome inspector also opens up. Right, but it doesn't highlight any particular element. If you want to highlight a particular element, you need to right click on that element. Say right click on the post free add button and select inspect element, and that element will be highlighted. Right, similarly um, if you have I, okay, in I look, there is no other alternative. You have to go into the page source and search, and you have to uh, trouble your mind like anything. Okay, there is no tool available for I as such, but for Chrome and Mozilla you have got tools, right? But the thing is, if you are able to identify the object on Chrome, the same object will be there on Mozilla, the same object will be there on I. So you don't really have to change your code, okay? Because the page source, this is the page source, it remains same in all the browsers. There is hardly any website which opens differently in Mozilla, differently in Chrome, differently in I, okay? The look and feel of the website is decided by this page source. This page source remains the same, so you really don't have to worry whether you detect the object in I or in Chrome or in Mozilla. You can just detect the object in any one of the browsers and use it in the other browsers as well. Okay. For example, if I look at this email ID field in Mozilla, okay, it's an input with the ID input name. Fine. And if I look at the same thing in Chrome, it's the same, right? Input ID. Hold on. Um, Hold on. Yeah, input with the name, greeting name, ID input name, and similarly over here, input with the name, greeting name, ID input name, right? So the same thing is there in Chrome as well. Okay, you really don't have to worry what will I do if I'm not able to inspect in Chrome or I. You can inspect in Mozilla and use the objects in other browsers. Okay, we'll talk about in detail, but this is how you can identify the objects very quickly in multiple browsers. Fine. Now coming over to our Excel file which we had made, this is the object text field object column having various objects, tag names, mandatory attributes, and optional attribute column. Okay. Now for a text field, all the text fields have the tag name as input. Always remember that. The tag name is input for all the text fields. For a button also the tag name is input, for a radio button in checkbox. Right, all these four components have the same tag name. Okay, I'm telling you from experience. Wherever you go, you'll find that all these four tag names or all these four objects have the same tag names. Fine. So there are set of mandatory and optional attributes associated with each object. Fine. So for example, this is a text field. right? So type equals to text. This, when type is text, okay, it becomes a text field. There's a type attribute, right? Okay. If in case it is a button, right, then the type attribute comes out to be submit. Okay, this is a mandatory attribute. It will always be present. If there is an input tag, right, which is having the type as submit, then it will make a button. Okay. If it is an input tag whose type is radio, then it will make a radio button. And if it is an input box whose type is checkbox, then it will make a checkbox. Okay. So no, why am I telling you is because these are very fundamental things, and later on when you build your own object identification, XPaths and all that stuff, this is gonna help you out. Okay. So remember that all these four components have the same tag name but different mandatory attribute. Right. A link has got a tag name A. If you investigate any link on any web page, it's always got a tag name A, anchor tag. Okay, and there is an attribute known as href associated with the anchor tag A. The href attribute points towards the URL which will open up when you will click on the link. Okay, right? So, hold on. Right? I'm sorry for that. All the links have got the anchor tag A and they have the attribute href. Okay, href attribute points towards the URL which will open when you click on that link. So out here, A and href make a link. For an image, the tag name is always img, and there's an attribute known as src. Sorry, mandatory attribute. This src attribute, it has the location where the image is stored. For example, on a web page, this is a quicker image on the top. You see that img attribute? Okay. src attribute, img tag name, sorry, img is a tag name, and src attribute will be present in all the image tags, and see, it holds the URL from which this image is loading. If you copy this URL and open up the URL, this quicker image will come up, right? So similarly, for a drop list, the tag name is select, and there is no mandatory attribute for a drop list. Okay, please remember, for a drop down there is no mandatory attribute. For a text, look, for text there is no specific tag name. Sometimes it comes under div, sometimes under span, sometimes under para tag. So there are n number of tag names in which a text can hold itself. Right. So basically this is the description of each and every object, the tag which is associated with it, and the mandatory attributes. Now optional attributes are like ID, name and class. These are the major ones. Okay, these can be present with any one of them, any of them. Okay, it's up to the developer. Generally, if the developer is giving an ID to every object on the page, then it becomes very easy to identify the object. For example, in our case, this text field has got an ID. So identifying this text field with Selenium will become easy, but it's not possible to give ID to every component on the page. For example, if I investigate this particular text or forgot link, right? Forgot your password link, then this link has got no ID. It's but obvious because it's not feasible to give ID to each and every component on the page. So if the it's up to the developer. Okay, it's up to the developer to give ID, name or class to a particular object on the web page. Okay, so now if we move forward, then all the combination of the tag name, mandatory attribute and the optional attribute will help you to identify the object on a web page. Okay, now let's see how do we do that, right? Let's see how do we do that. I will open up Eclipse, and instead of gmail.java, because Gmail has changed their way, I'll make quicker.java. Hold on. You can rename a file in Eclipse by clicking F2 on the file. Okay, I've renamed my file. If you click on the file and hit F2, you can rename it. Okay. Now you reach the website quicker.com. Fine. Now after reaching quicker.com, you need to write something in the email ID field. Okay. Now how do we do that? We do that with a function known as driver.findElement. Okay, driver.findElement. If you look at the Java doc, I had associated the Java doc in Eclipse, right? This is the find element function, right? And the description, the wordings are very small. Um, Hold on, I'll tell you. Let me open up documentation in Eclipse itself. If you look at the WebDriver interface, okay, we talked about the WebDriver interface yesterday. Okay. These were the functions. Now, one of the functions is find element. Okay, finds the first web element using the given method. Not what is a web element? Technically, object is also known as web element in Selenium. Okay, and a generic object on a page, a button, a text box, a link, all these objects which are discussed over here are also known as web elements. So this is object or web element as in Selenium. Okay, so you have an interface for web element, interface web element. Okay, and what driver.findElement does, driver.find web element actually returns you the reference of this interface. If you look at a driver.findElement function, it will return you the web element. Okay, for example, I can write over here web element username equals to driver.findElement. Now, how do I find the web element? So there is a class known as by. By is a class in WebDriver API. Here is the class. It's written over here by. If you click on this by, it's a class, okay, in which every field is static. Okay, by the class name, by the ID, by the link text, by the name. How do you want to find the element? Okay, the easiest way I told you was using ID. Right. Out here we are lucky enough that on quicker.com we have the ID of the text field. The username text field, we have the ID. The ID is input name. Fine. So you write over here by dot and you will get all the identifying mechanisms which Selenium supports. Right. We'll first talk about ID. By the ID and you specify the ID of the element on the page. So you get the username. Right. Now, if you look at the web element interface, which represents all the elements on the page, there are generic functions which you can perform on any element in this interface, like clear, click, or get location, get size, get text, is displayed, is enabled, right? So there are a lot of things like send keys. Send keys is used to use this method to simulate typing into the element. Okay, you can use this function to type something into it. For example, I'm sorry, a username is a text field. Okay, if you write username dot, there will be a lot of functions which you can perform with this particular web element username. Okay, I'll perform the function send keys. Send keys hello. So it will go to the website quicker.com, type in something into the username, into the input field. Okay, it will type hello into the input field. So when you run this, Hold on. You see that? It's opening. Oh, sorry. We had to go to this particular page, sign in page. Okay. Always remember that you should mention the protocol. Okay. Never forget to mention the protocol, otherwise it will not work. You see that? It writes hello inside it. Okay. Similarly, you can extract, say, I want to click on the submit button. This is submit. Okay. It's also got an ID called submit button. You copy the ID. The moment you see the ID, it becomes very easy to identify the object. Now you can write over here web element sign in button equals to driver dot find element by the ID submit button. Okay, and then click on the sign in button dot click. That's it. So when you run this, it will open up Firefox and it will write the input field and it will submit. It will try to submit the form. Right. So web element is a generic component on the page. It can also be a button, it can also be a text field, it can also be a link. Okay, anything on the web page is categorized under web element. Right. So see, it tries to click and you get the message, enter correct login details. Right. Anyways, let's move forward. Right. Now, instead of writing two lines for identifying and working on one component, you can also write just single line. You can write driver dot find element like submit button dot click directly as well. Okay, you don't need to write web element this will become your web element automatically. The execution starts from the left side. Okay, first web element is found and then you click on it. Okay, so you don't need to write multiple lines for one element usage. You can directly write input name dot send keys hello as well. This is how we write practically. Okay, you don't write multiple lines. Right. Now, what if an element is not having an ID? Okay, then there are other ways as well. Element can have a name. The developer might give element a name. But what if nothing is present? For example, um, text like this. I have a quicker account already. Okay, suppose I want to read this text. Now this text, if you highlight in Firebug, it's a div. This div has got no ID, no name, no class, nothing. Now, how do I identify such objects? Okay, so that becomes a real challenge. So, forgot your password, for example, it's a simple link, right? So, to identify these objects, these kind of objects, we have concept of xpath. Okay, we have the concept of something known as xpath. Now, xpaths are of two types, right? One is known as partial xpath and one is known as complete xpath. Okay, right? Now, what is an xpath basically? First of all, xpath is like the address of the element on the web page. Okay, it's like the address of the element. For example, um, this is the element text field on the top. Enter search term here. This is an input field, right? If you scroll to the top of the page, then the first tag in the page is HTML. Okay, so the complete XPath starts from this page, the address of the element. Okay, you'll make it something like this. That is, there is an HTML tag. Inside it, There are two tags, head and body. You are interested in the body tag because the element which you are looking for is inside the body tag. Okay, so you write HTML, then there is a body tag. Inside the body tag, there are many tags. Okay, this is the first division tag, this is the second division tag, then there are script tags. Okay, then there is an iframe tag. You are interested in the first division tag. Okay, so you write something like this, div1. Okay, so this will go inside the first division tag. If I would have written div2 over here, then it would have gone inside the second division tag. Okay, so you write div2 and div1, and inside div1 there is another division. So you keep on moving further till the time you find the tag input in which you are interested. Okay, you find the complete XPath like this. So it gives you the location of the element from the base of the document. Okay, there are tools which can find complete XPath for you. The tool is known as Firepath. You have to install it as an add-on on the top of Firebug. Okay, I told you how to install Firebug, right? Similarly, you can install Firepath. You can go to Google and type download Firepath, and you can go to addons.mozilla.org, and over here you can add Firepath to Firefox. Make sure you open it in Firefox. Okay, once you restart your Firefox, you'll have this Firepath option. In this Firepath option, click on generate absolute XPath. Make sure it is clicked. Okay, and now move your mouse over the element. You will have the absolute XPath of the element over here from the base of the document. Okay, so it starts from the HTML, the first tag on the web page, right, and it keeps on traversing down till the time it gets the input tag. Okay, so this is the complete XPath, which is very accurate. It points towards the element which you want to use, right? But there's a disadvantage of using this XPath. If I use it, how will I use it? I copy the XPath, I go to my web page and I write driver.findElement by the XPath. I give the full XPath over here, dot send keys, say anything, say Selenium. So you find the element with the XPath. By.xpath is one of the options. Okay? And you give the complete XPath. Right. So when you run this, it goes to the web page and see that it's written Selenium over here. Right. That's okay. But the problem over here is that you are making an XPath which is starting from the HTML document and you are getting the complete page in between. Now all these tags are in between. Tomorrow something changes. If the developer changes something in between the page, okay, he adds or removes a particular tag in between, then your XPath will go for a toss. All the XPaths will go for a toss rather. Okay, so it's not safe to use this kind of XPath. We resort to it until or unless we don't have any other means, right? So it's not safe to use these kinds of XPaths. Okay, because they are starting from the base of the document. If anything gets changed in between, then the maintenance of the code becomes tough. Okay, you have to go to your application, change all the XPaths, so it'll be not so easy thing, right? So that's why we use something known as partial XPaths. Okay, partial XPaths solve this problem. Fine. In Firebug, if you remove this generate absolute XPath, then you will get partial XPaths, right? For example, how will we make a partial XPath? Let's start with the very basics. If I write /A, what does this mean? A was the representation, or /star. This represents all objects on the page. Okay. If I write a say A, this kind of partial XPath represents all links on the page. A partial XPath will always start from a /. Okay. If you look at the text field which I had made, the XLS which I had made, the link was having the tag name A, right? So if I write /A, it will represent the link. If I write say img, it will represent image on the page, all the images on the page. Okay. On this concept, the partial XPaths are made. For example, if I uncheck the option generate absolute XPath and investigate the user ID field, then it gives me something like this. /* means all the elements on the page, but it's got something written in front of it, id equals to input name. That means all the elements on the page which have the id as input name. Now there is only one element on the page which with the id input name, so it will extract the element. Or you can, to be more generic, you can write input tag name instead of star. You can keep the tag name like we were keeping tag names here, that there is an input field on the page whose id is input name. So this is the input tag on the page whose id is input name, right? So this becomes my partial XPath. This XPath is also very effective. Instead of using this big XPath for this particular field, you can use this one only. Okay. Or if you now look at the forgot your password link, if I look at this link, then this link has got this partial XPath. Although it's a little big one, but it's not as big as the complete XPath which we were getting. Now how is this partial XPath formed? Okay. Now observe carefully what is happening. Observe carefully. Yeah. So this is the link. Okay. This link is inside the second TD tag. Right. So what Firebug does, it looks at the link, it finds the ID. It's not able to find the ID. So it moves my one step above. It goes inside the second TD tag under the TR tag, that is TD2. This TD tag has also not got any ID. So it moves to TR tag. This is the TR tag, which is TR3, which is also not having any ID. So it moves one step above into the T body. So it keeps on moving till the time it reaches this TD tag, which is having a ID equals to block. So it starts from here. It gives you an XPath like this. It should be actually, there's a TD tag whose ID is block. Under that there's a table tag, table body tr1 till the time it reaches the link. So it starts traversing the page from this TD tag till this anchor link A, right? So it traverses from this to this, this to this like this, okay, and it reaches over here. So this is how it makes the XPath, right? So you can also use this one. Using this kind of XPath is far better than using an XPath which starts from the very basic of the document, that is the very root of the document. Fine. Are you able to understand this? Any questions from anybody? Anything? Are you able to understand this? Firepath needs to be installed separately. Yes, Gangaram, Firepath has to be installed separately. You have to install Firepath as an add-on. Okay, it never comes up with Firebug. You have to install it on the top of Fire. Right. Another thing is, can you please repeat the last example? Okay, I'll repeat it. What happens when we don't have an ID? Okay. Right. For example, let's look at this button, Add to Firefox. This button is actually not a button, it's a link. It's got an anchor tag. So has this anchor tag got any ID? No. Right. So what Firebug then it does? It moves to the para tag. Right. So this para tag can be related in the xpath over here. Okay. This para tag has also not got an ID. So it moves to this div tag. This div tag is also not having any ID, right? And it can be seen in the xpath over here, right? Then it moves to this div tag, which is again not having any ID. So this div tag can be seen over here in the xpath, right? Then it moves one step above over here. So this is also not having any ID. So it reaches here, right? Now then it moves over to this div tag. This div tag, hold on, just hold on. Yeah, this div tag is having an ID as add-on. So this can be related over here. So it starts from this div tag and makes the xpath till the anchor tag. You got my point now, right? This is how it is making the partial xpath. Now the question being asked is, what if the page doesn't have an ID or name? Sometimes the generic ID every build. Well, there are ways to tackle that. I'll talk about that. What if the ID changes consistently? Well, for example, in AWT applications and all that stuff. Okay, the ID every time you refresh the page, the ID changes. Okay, so I'll talk about those situations as well. Just be with me. Fine. No, for I there is nothing like that, Shishu. That's the problem, right? So that's why we do it in Mozilla and it works in I as well. Okay. In I you have to do it manually. There is no tool as such. There are applications which support only I, no other browser. So it's a little tough to automate them because only I inspector is there which can be accessed through F12. Otherwise there is nothing. Right. So you can use partial, you can use complete XPaths to identify the objects. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll stop here for today. Alright, because if I move further I need at least half an hour, right? So that's one of the limitations in online class. Like if I start with the next topic I need at least half an hour, right? Yeah, the question being asked, there are 3 div tags after ID. 1 2 3. No, it's not like that. 1 2 3. How are the numbers given? Okay, that's the question. Look, under this division we have got 2 div tags. Okay, if I want to go inside the first division, then it is div 1. If I want to go inside the second division, then I will write div 2. You are getting my point? If there are similar tag names under a particular tag, then we do it like that. Like I'll talk about that about class. I'll talk about class. Saroja, I'll talk about in coming classes, right? For example, there is forgot your password link over here, right? There are under the table body tags, there are 3 tr tags. I want to go inside the third one. That's why it's written that under table body tr3. This will go inside the third tr tag. And then it is written td2. This will go inside the second td tag. You got my point, Raj? Why these numbers are there? They are for the similar tags. Right? So if you have similar tags at parallel locations, you identify them with the numbers. Yeah? Right. So I'll